Most shotgun buyers don't make bad choices because they're careless. They make bad choices because they assume shotguns are simple, forgiving tools, that almost anything with a pump or semi-auto action will work just fine. That assumption is wrong. In reality, some shotguns carry hidden risks baked into their design. Not cosmetic issues, not personal preference problems. Real risks, reliability failures, durability problems, maintenance traps, and design decisions that quietly turn a useful firearm into a long-term liability. Today, we're breaking down 10 shotguns with the highest buyer risk. These aren't abused junk guns or obscure prototypes. These are real production models that looked acceptable on paper, came from recognizable brands, and still managed to disappoint owners once real-world use exposed their weaknesses. This list isn't about hate. It's about understanding where risk lives. Number 10, Remington 887 Nitro Mag. The 887 was sold as a modern solution to old problems. A polymer-coated exterior promised corrosion resistance and durability in harsh environments. On the surface, it seemed like a practical evolution of the pump shotgun. The buyer risk emerges once the gun is actually used. The action is stiff and uneven, often failing to smooth out even after extended break-in. Trigger pulls tend to be heavy and inconsistent, making controlled shooting more difficult than it should be. The polymer coating, marketed as tough, frequently chips or peels, revealing premature wear. More concerning are reports of failures to eject, a serious issue for a pump-action firearm. Individually, these flaws might seem manageable. Together, they undermine confidence, especially for defensive use. Number 9, Franchi SPAS-12. The SPAS-12 is a textbook example of complexity risk. Its dual-mode system, capable of pump or semi-automatic operation, sounds impressive, but every added feature introduces another potential failure point. Switching modes is clumsy under stress. Maintenance requirements are demanding, and neglect quickly leads to malfunctions. The shotgun's weight makes prolonged handling exhausting, and balance suffers as a result. Parts availability today adds another layer of buyer risk, as repairs are neither simple nor cheap. The SPAS-12 looks intimidating and iconic, but functionally it sacrifices simplicity and reliability for novelty, which is rarely a smart trade. Number 8, Browning BPS Stalker Early Production Models. Browning's reputation works against buyers here. Early BPS Stalker variants suffered from cycling issues tied to their bottom eject design. While intended to benefit left-handed shooters, it introduced inconsistencies that caused jams and made clearing malfunctions more difficult. Trigger pulls were excessively heavy, negatively affecting accuracy. Early synthetic stocks were also prone to cracking under regular use. Later versions corrected many of these issues, but early models remain a buyer risk because reliability problems tend to surface only after extended use, long after the purchase decision is made. Number 7, Benelli Nova Tactical Early Versions. Brand trust is the danger here. Benelli's reputation for reliability leads buyers to assume the Nova Tactical is a safe choice. Early versions, however, revealed several design-related risks. The one-piece polymer receiver can stock limit customization and contribute to awkward ergonomics. Balance is bulky and front-heavy, which slows handling. More importantly, some early units experienced shell drop malfunctions, where rounds fell from the magazine tube instead of feeding correctly. For a shotgun marketed toward defensive use, any feeding failure introduces unacceptable risk. Improvements came later, but early models remain cautionary examples. Number 6, Stevens 94. The Stevens 94 illustrates budget risk. Marketed as a simple, affordable, single-shot shotgun, it attracts beginners and cost-conscious buyers. The problem is construction quality. Thin receivers, low-grade materials, and weak stocks loosen quickly under recoil. Misalignment becomes common, leading to inconsistent ignition and unreliable shot patterns. Recoil is harsh due to poor weight distribution and minimal padding, making extended use uncomfortable and potentially unsafe. Simplicity doesn't equal durability, and the Stevens 94 demonstrates how cutting too many corners turns affordability into liability. Number 5, Mossberg 500 Tactical Turkey. This shotgun suffers from role confusion. Designed as a hybrid between hunting and tactical use, It fails to excel in either category. Factory sights are often misaligned, reducing accuracy. Collapsible stocks feel flimsy and introduce instability. Balance becomes awkward once optics or accessories are added. More concerning are reports of rough actions and failures to eject. Issues unexpected from the Mossberg 500 platform. The buyer risk here comes from compromise. When a shotgun tries to serve incompatible roles, performance suffers across the board. Number 4, Savage 755A. The 755A's gas-operated system is the primary source of risk. Overly complex and difficult to clean, it is highly sensitive to ammunition choice. Lighter loads often fail to cycle properly, turning what should be a smooth semi-auto into a frustrating experience. Internal parts wear quickly, and replacement components are increasingly hard to find. Stocks are prone to cracking, and finishes degrade rapidly. Even when the shotgun functions initially, long-term ownership becomes the challenge. Buyer risk isn't just about first impressions, it's about sustainability. Number 3, Winchester 1200 Defender. Despite the Winchester name, the 1200 Defender reflects cost-cutting that directly impacts reliability. Weak action bars and loose tolerances result in sloppy cycling. Under stress, this increases the likelihood of jams. Over time, trigger groups and safeties show accelerated wear. Compared to earlier Winchester designs, the 1200 Defender represents a step backward in durability. The buyer risk lies in assuming legacy branding guarantees performance when the underlying design no longer supports it. Number 2, Remington Spartan 453. The Spartan 453 was created to offer affordability through outsourced manufacturing. The result was inconsistent quality control. Machining is rough, finishes are uneven, and gas systems are poorly tuned. Some units perform acceptably, others experience frequent failures to feed and cycle. Stocks are uncomfortable, recoil is excessive, and long-term durability varies widely between examples. This unpredictability defines its buyer risk. When consistency isn't guaranteed, ownership becomes a gamble rather than a decision. Number 1, Ithaca Mag 10 Roadblocker. The Mag 10 earns the highest buyer risk rating because it embodies over-engineering. Designed to harness the power of 10-gauge shells, it sacrifices practicality in the process. At nearly 11 pounds unloaded, it is exhausting to handle. Recoil remains punishing despite the weight. The gas system is finicky, prone to fouling, and difficult to maintain. Reliability suffers in real-world conditions, and upkeep quickly becomes burdensome. While visually imposing, the Mag 10 demonstrates how pushing size and power without restraint creates more problems than solutions. As a functional shotgun, it carries extreme buyer risk. These shotguns highlight a critical lesson that most buyers only learn after the money's already spent. Buyer risk isn't always obvious at the counter, and it rarely shows up in the first magazine or the first range session. It hides in long-term wear patterns, in small mechanical tolerances that loosen over time, in maintenance requirements that demand more attention than most owners expect, and in parts availability that quietly disappears years after production ends. Risk also reveals itself when conditions stop being ideal, when a shotgun is dirty instead of clean, when ammunition isn't perfectly matched, when recoil accumulates over repeated use. That's when design shortcuts, weak materials, and poor engineering decisions begin to surface. A firearm that feels acceptable at first can slowly become unpredictable, frustrating, or unreliable as these factors stack up. A reliable shotgun earns trust quietly. It cycles the same way every time. It maintains consistency as parts wear in rather than falling apart. It doesn't demand constant attention or forgiveness from the shooter. Over time, that consistency becomes confidence, the kind that matters when the firearm is actually relied upon. A risky shotgun does the opposite. Confidence erodes shot by shot. Small issues turn into repeated annoyances. Annoyances turn into doubt. And doubt is the last thing anyone should feel toward a firearm they depend on. If you want more breakdowns that prioritize function over hype, subscribe to Firearm Index. Every video here exists for one reason: to help you recognize buyer risk early, understand it clearly, and avoid expensive mistakes before they become your problem.